Yo yo yo, it's your boy VenomousStare. I'm the Faith Hill of StarCraft 2. This is a Terran versus Zerg between two exceptional Korean pro gamers. JJAKJI, in the top left here, is a guy who actually won a GSL. A lot of people don't know that. I would say he's probably the most forgotten GSL winner, right up there with Sniper. I would say Sniper is potentially more forgotten just because he was disdained as far as the fact that he played Zerg at that time period. But if you were to trivia people, JJAKJI would probably get forgotten a lot. He actually beat Lenok in late 2011. This was back whenever Ghost did 45 damage and Snipe had like no cast time, or Snipe did 45 damage to Bio, I think it was, and it was like just instant, ridiculous. And JJAKJI, I remember watching the games and the Broodlord army of Lenok just disappearing. So JJAKJI is also a guy who favors aggressive play, not necessarily cheesy, but he likes to be in the driver's seat, he likes to be in control. But he's facing off against Dark. And if ever there was a Zerg who did not mind being harassed, it was Dark. This is the kind of guy who seemingly has way more drones than any other Zerg. He seems to be unkillable almost in certain respects. Dark is the kind of guy who is hard to kill with cheese, and he's hard to out multitask, and he's hard to kill with macro. He's the kind of Zerg who will manage to survive no matter what you do to him, and then just tech up to whatever he wants and kill you. He's very scary because so often the flaw we see with many Zergs is they're vulnerable to cheese. You know, if you beat them in the mid game and they don't get to that late game, then that's where we see Zergs falter sometimes, especially these big macro Zergs who like to aim for that late game, and that's really what they try to aim for in their play in general is the late game. They don't really favor any sort of aggressive timings or cheese play or proxies or anything. So that's what makes playing Dark so hard, is it's hard to prepare for someone who seemingly can just defend everything that you do. You know, you just let him macro. I mean, he's one of the best macro players in the world. JJAKJI wants to be in the driver's seat. That's the kind of player that he is, and this is the kind of build that he chose to do. This is the stem drop timing that has been gaining a lot of popularity recently. Now, if you're not familiar with it, newbie Terran players, I'll hit the high notes, or Zergs if you want to know how to defend it. Basically, the gist of it is you get two quick barracks, one with reactor, one with tech lab. The one with tech lab researches stem. You get a quick factory, and as soon as the factory finishes, start a starport and get a reactor on the factory as soon as you can. Obviously, you build them as close to each other as possible. The entire point of this is you lift the factory when it finishes with the add-on and then swap the starport onto the reactor. Very basic stuff to swap a reactor onto a starport. It's very basic stuff, but I like to point it out, and of course JJAKJI is going to do that. The whole point of this build is basically you get 16 Marines right when 2 medevacs come out, so you can load up 2 medevacs, and stim pack will finish right about at the time when you drop. And if the Zerg is not ready for it, it will deal severe damage. A top tier macro Zerg like Dark will almost never get caught off guard by something like this, but if you're in Plat League or lower and you can execute this build, an absurdly high number of people will just die to this outright or take such severe damage where the game will be over. JJAKJI, he's short a couple Marines, but that's alright. 14 at the moment. He's going to boost as soon as he can, and as soon as this comes off cooldown, boost again. There it is. Notice he's also getting +1 in his wall-in. Now I suspect that after he finishes with this phase of the game, the sort of aggression, he will add a second eBay and an armory. That's what you want to do whenever you're forced to open up with these single upgrade openings, as opposed to double upgrade with 2 eBay. And JJAKJI Stim sees that, okay, well, Dark already has a handful of Roaches, I don't have any Marauders, I don't have any +1. What I can do is pretty limited. He also has Queens. JJAKJI is immediately met with resistance, and he's going to fly third base into main. This is one of the most common moves on this map. You will almost always see this at some point in the game. The Terran will attack up into the third, a very common move in itself, and then fly into the main, and drones just get butchered. 13 drones have died. And a little bit of miss micro as one of the medevacs is going to go down, the one with two, count them, 2 Marines. And a huge production tab for JJAKJI. He started Herp Derp combat shields as expected. His +1 is almost done. And as predicted, the eBay Armory combo is coming up. 17 drones did end up dying there. So an 8 worker disadvantage for Dark. The reason this is so powerful is because you can pretty much start your... You can upgrade 2 at a time, which is what you always want to be doing with eBays. But more importantly, as we see, a Ravager might go down. Actually, no it won't. Dark just micros perfectly too. JJAKJI is going to kill these rock towers by the third. So once this +1 finishes from the aggressive push, JJAKJI can start his defense as well and his attack. This way he can continuously get upgrades at the same time throughout the game, which is important. And he can start his armory upgrades as well. So basically it means that even though he only made that 1 eBay early on, he can still continue to transition into double upgrades. Because obviously you have to have the armory to get to 2. Something that newbie players forget all the time. Mass drones on the way for Dark. Notice he's made a little bit of static defense. This is important as Zerg whenever you go roach based compositions. You know that you're weak to drop, so making a spore in a location where you're likely to get dropped is very valuable. Dark is a very good Zerg, and one of the things that very good Zergs do is saturate their bases well. Of course this one is over a little bit because he lost bases and he's being pressured and can't take a 4th. What I mean by lost bases is he really wants to be taking a 4th right now, but he can't. 1-1 is on the way, as well as burrow and burrow movement for Dark. So Dark could potentially go for a very secretive style here and try to harass with burrowed roaches. Players like JJAKJI, who are very aggressive and stay in the Zerg's face, can be hard to deal with, especially if you struggle with splitting your army up as Zerg. But Dark is going to get his expansion cancelled almost certainly here. JJAKJI does in fact kill it. Dark is going to run up and defend. Now the thing about this style, this burrowed roach style, as we see Dark Tech 2 Infestation Pit, is infestors can cast spells whenever they're burrowed now. So if you go burrowed roach, it's not like in the old days in Wings of Liberty where, okay, you went burrowed roach and it's kind of a gimmick. If it doesn't work out, you're screwed. Now you can make not only Ravagers, which are good for breaking building wall-ins. As you see, a little bit of a drop play here. More workers going down for Dark. We go to income. Once again, the Zerg player has fallen behind the Terran in workers. But the infestors are very good because they can fungal the Terran's units in place while corrosive bile rains down upon them for huge damage. And JJAKJI drops, but he drops right into the spore. So the effectiveness of JJAKJI's drops here, even though they are somewhat useful because he's facing off against roaches, he's killing a lot of drones. Dark has repositioned his army well, he's allocated his army well, and he's allocated the static defense structure spore crawlers well. Of course, the one at the natural died. So that is to say that he hasn't really taken that much damage, considering, well, JJAKJI won a damn GSL being an aggressive, obnoxious Terran. And we saw a little... I'm going to rewind, actually. So there was a double drop here and Dark did a relatively good job defending it. Now, he was defending a drop over here, and JJAKJI ran away. Dark wanted to take a fourth. He couldn't because of this drop that ended up flying over here into the Spore. Of course, JJAKJI sees the infestation pit, so he's aware of the infestors. At this point, 14 drones have been lost, right? And we see the Terran has a worker lead. But see, at this point, the Terran's dropping so much where he's kind of running in a static defense, and this is where the harass happens. So Dark actually snuck burrowed roaches in, and even though there was a turret, he managed to kill workers of his own. So now he's only behind 3 workers. This is a big deal, because now Dark, not only is he pretty much evened up the worker killed count, he has put something in the back of JJAKJI's head. JJAKJI also has to worry consistently about being harassed by infestors. So he has to worry about burrowed roaches, and he has to worry about infestors. He's also going to lose a dropship, aka medevac. And this is something that, quite honestly, could be traced to the fact that he's having to worry about all these burrowed units. Dark is always putting JJAKJI in a position where he can lose to burrowed units. This is very, very worrisome, as we see a burrowed infestor narrowly being missed, and it goes down onto all the tanks. Corrosive Bile being launched, but a lot of bio was in the front to protect these tanks. That could have been catastrophic. Could have been just horrific if the bio was like over here derping around with creep. Could have lost all those tanks. So JJAKJI is going to pressure the 4th base, and roaches are going to start killing workers. And this is what I was talking about. It's not necessarily the threat of losing all those workers to a handful of roaches, but the threat of having to deal with it. Corrosive Bile wonderfully placed onto fungal units, and once again JJAKJI is at a supply disadvantage. JJAKJI's trying to take a 4th of his own. It's making into a PF. And a little MacGyver maneuver as Dark is going to sneak some roaches over. He has a burrowed infestor too, and Dark does lose the 4th base, but he snuck some roaches over, and suddenly, JJAKJI, caught with his pants down, the former GSL winner, is going to have to ferry his whole army back. This infestor potentially is waiting. This PF is going to get cancelled, and Dark has a lot of infestors sharking around. The PF gets cancelled, and Dark can fungal this army, and suddenly a fungaled army can get corrosive biled, and it does. And over here at the 3rd base of JJAKJI, workers are being slaughtered, so even a GSL winner can be out multitasked, as we see Dark picking JJAKJI apart. And this is the advantage of the infestor. The advantage, of course, being that such high risk spells can be thrown out from a burrowed position now, meaning that if you're caught a little bit out of position, suddenly you can be stuck there. 28 workers have died for JJAKJI. He is in dire straits. 36 workers now to the Zerg's 56, and Dark can quite simply bludgeon JJAKJI with burrow here. He can pick and choose. Okay, well, what does he have? Oh, he doesn't even have turrets. I can simply kill his 4th base he was trying to float, and then run in with infestors and do the rest. JJAKJI was very aggressive, but despite the fact that Dark had a roach tech based army for a long time, he held multi-pronged drop harass well, and now he's almost over 100 supply. Filthy fungal, my goodness. That is a complete slaughter, and JJAKJI's just going to lose outright, because even his valuable tank on the high ground was flanked with roaches, and that's the game. Dark takes it wonderfully with burrowed roaches. Make sure you subscribe for more. This was a best of 3. You don't want to miss subsequent games or any other wonderful StarCraft that I cast here.